Hello and welcome to the Print Softcover. My name is Prasanna Bachchhav, and today we have with us Sholeh Wolpé, an Iranian-born poet, playwright, and translator. She has published 7 poetry collections, 5 books of translations, 3 anthologies, and several plays. And today we are discussing her new book, The Invisible Sun. It's a collection of poems from 12th century Sufi poet Attar. Sholeh has collected, edited, and translated the book, recreating in elegant language the wisdom of one of the most important mystic Sufi poets who influenced even Rumi and Hafiz. The book has been published by Harper Perennial, an imprint of HarperCollins publishers. Welcome to the print, Sholeh.
It's a pleasure to be here.
So, Sholeh, Rumi is celebrated around the world, but Attar, who Rumi has acknowledged as a master and who has had one of the biggest influences on Persian poetry, isn't well known. Please tell us about him.
Well, the answer is very simple. Rumi was widely translated, and Attar was not. The last translation of Attar's masterpiece, The Conference of the Birds, was published by Penguin, I think about over 25 years ago, maybe 30, maybe 40 years ago, and it was translated by a scholar in a rhymed scheme. Of course, it was brilliantly done, but when you rhyme a rhymed work, you translate it, you cannot really transport it properly into another language without sacrificing a lot of meaning, a lot of depth. Sometimes it becomes sing-songy. So the problem was that he had not been properly introduced in English language. What I did was take Attar's work, which is truly a masterpiece, truly inspiring, but it was written in the 12th century Persian format, which means 4,000 some couplets straight through. And in our 21st century minds, we cannot
Yeah.
process that kind of work. So I categorized it. I made the speech of the birds into prose, the stories into prose, and the speech of the birds into modern poetry. I put it in sections so that when you read it, when you open the book, you're not overwhelmed. That's why. So when Norton published The Conference of the Birds, just it seemed like some sort of a spark entered into the world, because all of a sudden there were musicians, artists, playwrights, ordinary people. They were just inspired and they wanted to know more about it and to create other creative work. And then the reception was so incredible that then I decided to do The Invisible Sun, which you now have in your hands.
Oh, all right. I was about to ask you about the decision to not have rhyme in your translation. It did strike out to me, but you have
Well,
explained that as well.
I can tell you a little bit. I just touched upon it. The
Hmm.
thing is, Persian language is very musical. It's very
Hmm.
beautiful, but it, it's very easy. Well, it's not easy, but it comes to you to rhyme. Just
Yeah.
rhyming is not as difficult as it is in English. So when you transport that into the universe of English speakers, if you go into the rhyming scheme of 4,000 some couplets of deep wisdom, there is no way you won't get sing-songy and childlike. And I wanted to avoid that.
I understand. Uh, so my next question for you is the subtitle for The Invisible Sun reads A Guide for the Soul, right? So why is Attar or his wisdom Why do you think it is important in today's world?
Well, look around you today. I mean, all you have to do, you're a journalist, you just have to
Yes.
open the newspaper. I imagined, like when I was 19 years old, I imagined that the future would be something a lot brighter, that
Yeah,
we
yeah,
would go forward, that we would experience, humanity would experience a paradigm shift to another level of existence. That didn't happen. We went backwards. We glided back towards the
yeah,
Middle Ages, towards war, darkness, greed, ego. Even women's rights are being taken away more and
yeah.
more. I mean, what is happening? It all goes back to who we are as humanity. I don't think it's kind of like a wound cannot heal if you just keep cleaning it. You have to give it something to, you have to nourish it. You have to give it things that it would begin to again regenerate and heal. And I believe Attar's words are like that. It addresses every individual in their own private lives. And it tells you you are not powerless, you're powerful. Because once you begin to walk in your own journey and pay attention to yourself, you will begin to emit rays of light. And if everyone begins to do that, the darkness will disappear.
Brilliantly put. Um, but also, you first translated Attar's Conference of the Birds in 2016. And that itself is a humongous, I think it's a Masnavi poem, right? Uh, so 9 years later, what has changed? What's different? What was different for you in this book?
Well, the Conference of the Birds is a commitment if you want to read it, right? In order to understand the story, you've got to go from the first page to the last page to take the journey of the birds. I wanted to offer the public something that wasn't as big of a commitment to enter Attar's wisdom, to bring Attar's wisdom into their lives. The Conference of the Birds, the Invisible Sun, is drawn from not only the Conference of the Birds, but from a lot of Attar's other work. I basically went through a lot of his work and took passages that I found personally soul inspiring, and I recreated it in English in such a way that is as beautiful and as touching as it is in Persian, I hope. And I wanted for the reader to be able to just take this book, open it at random, and read and take that wisdom with him or her throughout the day and to meditate on it. So that's the purpose of this book.
And in the book, you write the poems transported from one language or culture. They uh, must breathe on their own, and yet they carry something of their own selves, right? Their original selves. So, what was your biggest challenge in translating Attar this time around?
The biggest challenge, first of all, was to collect the work, because it is I don't know if you delve into Attar's work, it's not easy, it's not an easy read, when you pick up the books. So for me the hardest part was collecting the work that I wanted to translate. The rest was a joy. It's difficult, but because I had practiced so much with the Conference of the Birds and I knew exactly how the transportation can take place, it wasn't as daunting as it was with the Conference of the Birds.
Yeah,
It was truly a joy. But the thing is, with Persian, I truly believe that a translator of poetry must be a recreator who's not only
yeah.
bilingual, bicultural, but also writes in the target language. So I think being all of those things helped me in creating this.
Yeah.
truly soul inspiring book.
And you've said a lot about how English is sort of a poor language. It is a prosaic language, whereas Persian is very rich, it's very musical. But Rushdie has written that while many things get lost in translation, some things do get added. So, what do you think got added to Attar in your recreating of him?
That's a loaded question. I don't think anyone in the world can add to Attar. I think in the process Attar added to me. Attar, this recreation of his work, Attar made me not only hopefully a better person, richer person in terms of my soul, but also a better poet. I've carried him through to my other works. In fact, one of the things that happened, the way Attar gave me a gift, is that as I was recreating the Conference of the Birds, I learned about the style of how he presented the work. So I carried that over to my memoir in verse, Abacus of Loss. And Abacus of Loss is a book that I use prose and poetry to tell a story, to tell my story. So
Hmm.
Ator gave that gift to me. So no, I did not. I will never add
Hmm.
to Ator.
Oh, I think you're being very humble here. I'm sure there are things that have been added. But while you've learned a lot from Attar, what was it that first struck out to you? Why did you uh, go out to seek Attar?
Um, I I was. This is a touchy subject. Well, I was very much. I was disappointed with organized religions. No, remember, I'm not saying religions, I'm saying organized religions.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I was disappointed because I realized that instead of bringing harmony and love to the world, they are being tools of divisiveness. They're being used by politicians, by egotistic maniacs to divide people. And I wanted to distance myself from that. But I'm a spiritual being. I wanted to nourish my soul. And I felt Attar did that for me because Attar talks, he says, you should be able to walk into a church, into a mosque,
Yes.
into a temple of idolaters, and say, oh, I only see the beloved, that there is
Even
no difference.
an alcohol shop, I think he says.
Even anywhere you should, well,
Yeah.
but he's talking about places that they say we worship a god or we worship something
Hmm. Of course.
divine, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So alcohol shop doesn't do that. But he's talking about there is no difference. You walk into any of these temples and you should only see the divine. You shouldn't see the differences. You should see what unites you, not what divides you, because what divides you is human made, but
Yeah.
what unites you is the divine. And that part of Atar just felt like home to me. And I said to myself, this is a man that his work should be known by the world because you can come to him from any religion, from any
Yeah.
background, and be enriched by it.
Yeah.
But
Even,
Atar, yes, but Atar
so,
says something really interesting before you go on,
of course,
because
of course.
this has to do with it. He says, but you cannot come searching with your cup full of your beliefs and unbeliefs. You have to empty it first to receive.
Yes. So even that's what I was about to say. So many of images and symbols that I've heard about in other stories, Hindu stories from my grandfather, even the cup full symbol image, so many of them I found in Attar. So he's a deep well of knowledge and wisdom. But I also found something else that was interesting. And talking about alcohol shops and drunkenness, uh, I sometimes found Attar to be self contradictory in that, in one place, he says, being with the beloved, feeling divinity is like being drunk, right? And then in another place, he criticizes that. As in, I think he says, in one place, he says, drunkenness and beloved are a pair. And then in another place, he says, if you say you are drunk with love, know that even that is a deception, right?
Oh
So,
no.
yeah. So, that I read as Attar will just not let me win his game. But do you think that it is Attar critiquing his own words, his poems, his own teachings, and himself, or is it something else and I'm misreading it?
No, you're misreading it, I think. Let me tell you, he's not contradicting himself. He's talking about two different things. He's talking about that. um of course, we're not talking about the actual. I want to make clear, we're not talking about the
Yeah, yeah,
actual whiskey or alcohol. We're
yeah, yeah,
talking
yeah.
about the effect that alcohol has on us, which makes us drunk. He's talking about that soul drunkenness. um but in one sense, he's saying when you're with the beloved, you feel that incredible drunkenness.
Yeah.
But the other place that you're talking about, he's talking about something else. He's talking about how we get in life to a place where we imagine we have arrived at that true drunkenness. And it's not. He says, don't be fooled by it. Don't be fooled. Don't stop searching. Because when you stop searching, that's when you have failed yourself. You have to always say, no, there is more, because there's always more to reach the divine. Because listen, if you have reached the divine, like that moth on the flame, you're already consumed. You're not asking these questions anymore. There is a beautiful story about in the conference of the birds that King Mahmood is going by, and there is this guy, Sufi, searching, searching, searching for the dust. And he says, oh, this poor guy, he needs something. So he throws in a beautiful jeweled bracelet and he leaves. Says, okay, he'll stop searching. He now is a rich man. And then he comes back the next day and he sees the guy is still searching in the dust. He says, well,
Yeah.
why are you still a pauper? And he says, well, yes, I found that jewel, but that would not stop me from, I'm searching for something greater than what I found. I think that is what you found in that
Yeah.
passage.
All right. So essentially, for Attar, the divine or seeking the divine is always journey. It's wayfaring, right? It never ends. Is that it?
Oh, well, no, first of all, when you talk about an end, you're already limiting your own mind and soul. There
Hmm.
is no end. There is no time. There is always movement. But in the metaphor that he uses, he says we are all taking different paths in our lives, different journeys toward the great ocean. And through our journey, we have to purify ourselves of our egos, of our attachments, so that we can arrive at the ocean as a pure drop of water, that
Yeah.
we can join the ocean and become the ocean. So I think metaphorically, the goal is reaching that ocean so we can become one with the ocean and not be that pebble wrapped around our own ego that just sinks to the bottom and never knows the ocean.
Would you like to comment about the central motive of the journey of the wayfarer, the wanderer? It keeps coming up through different poems, and that is the sort of the central motive of the invisible sun as well, I can say. Would you like to tell me what your take is on that?
Well, my take on that is that so many of us, myself included at some point, um, we stop movement in our journey of life. And when do we do that? When we become attached to ideas, to things we're doing, when we become judgmental, self righteous. Because we are too busy judging and looking and telling other people how to be, we have stopped in our journey. And Attar says that when you are consistently working on your own soul and your ego and attachments, that's movement. Because remember, movement means
Mhm.
your perspective is constantly changing in life, right? That's how we change perspectives, only through movement. And if you
Yeah.
don't have that change of perspective constantly, what has happened is that you have settled into your own puddle and imagined you have arrived at the ocean, and you begin to drown in your own puddle, and what a terrible fate that is. So Attar says, what are you waiting for? Step out of this illusion, keep on moving. And the movement means growth.
Yeah, of course. Uh, one part of the book that really struck out to me was Praise for the Dead.
Mhm.
And I found the section to be very intriguing. It's a very intriguing bunch of poems. One can feel a sense of trepidation almost in Attar, where he is at death's door. Sometimes he is talking about being buried. Sometimes he is at the door and he knows the beloved is beyond it, and he is asking for his for forgiveness. He's asking the beloved to forget and forgive and to receive him. Uh, Whereas in the rest of the poems, Adar appears to us as very self-sure in his relationship to the beloved. Here, there's a sense of trepidation, and that I found very intriguing. And in the context of his death, which was also violent, it becomes these poems become even more poignant. So, could you tell us how this section came about?
Yes, very, very observant. Very, very good question. A lot of them came from the epilogue. Um, of the Conference of the Birds, and then
Oh,
elsewhere also. So some of them came from the epilogue, some of them, which is just basically Attar, is Attar speaking. It's no longer the story of the birds. It's the Attar, the man, the human. And if you read them, they are full of contradictions. You finally see the humanness of this incredible man coming through. And a long time ago, after the book was published, a very prominent physician from Oxford University, I believe, he wrote me and he said, you know, I've chosen one of these poems to be read at my gravesite when I die. And I thought, how intriguing. Yes, yes, I would too. And so I picked one as well. And then I thought, you know, when we lose someone, a beloved, we're always searching what should we read other than scriptures from, you know,
yeah,
religious texts. There is nothing that addresses the soul just as the soul and with the soul's trepidations. I thought, this is wonderful. I'm going to give this to everyone so that if you're searching for something different, unusual to read or choose for yourself when you
yeah,
pass on, then this is a gift. Take it.
that's lovely. And this is my last question to you. What is your favorite poem from the book?
Oh my God, that is the hardest question. Every single one. I swear to you, whenever I open the book at random, I that becomes my favorite quote. But what I could tell you as an answer is that go ahead and do this. Whenever you have a question or a problem, just really connect with the book and open at random, and then really meditate on what it's saying. It works for me, for my friends, for whoever I've tried it with. And that line would may become your favorite line for the day until tomorrow.
Yeah, great answer. Thank you, Sholeh. It was lovely chatting with you. Thanks for joining us.
It's my absolute pleasure. Thank you.